So Comic-Con season is coming up soon, and for a few of you, it might be your first time cosplaying at a convention. And I was just reminiscing about my first time cosplaying at London Comic-Con. I vlogged my whole experience. It was my first time ever in cosplay, so I hadn't even done it at home, and it was my first time ever at a convention. So I was super overwhelmed, and I didn't know what to expect at all. So today I will be sharing a few tips so you can have the most stress-free, fun, and memorable convention experience if you are a first-time cosplayer going to your first convention. And if you're new here, my name is Jessica. I'm a cosplayer, a writer, an enjoyer of film, books, television, and any other form of entertainment I can get my hands on. So my very first tip would be to prioritize your comfort above anything else. And I know this makes me sound like a mom, but I actually do have a lot of experience with this. Now, I know if you're cosplaying, you might want to be as accurate as possible to the character that you are cosplaying as, but this might not necessarily translate to fashion that you can wear comfortably and move around comfortably in real life. So, for example, when I cosplayed for the first time, I wore Zatanna's costume. So she's a comic book character, she's a magician superhero from DC Comics, and she has these very tall stiletto heels that is a signature part of her look. And I'm think of myself as like somebody who's pretty good with heels, better than like the average person, I would say, and I can last quite a long time in them. But even for me, that was a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of pain that I shouldn't have endured. So I would say if your cosplay is kind of restricting your mobility in some way, maybe it's hard for you to like turn, if you're wearing like full body armor, if you're wearing, high shoes, it might be difficult for you to walk, or if you're wearing something that, is like a helmet or a mask and you can't really see very well, think about whether you can handle that for like 8 to 10 hours, depending on how long you decide to be on the convention. And this is not like a measure of how dedicated you are if you can last longer in your uncomfortable cosplay. That does not make you a better fan than anyone else. It is totally okay to bring a change of comfortable clothes, which is what I started to do after my first few times cosplaying. So what I did to solve my high heel problem was that I just wore sports shoes to get to the convention because I take public transport. It usually takes me about an hour to get to Comic-Con. And then I'd pop my heels on when I get into the convention center. I'll take a few pictures, see people, hang around and have people like compliment me on my outfit. And then like towards the end of the day when things are winding down, I just changed back into my sports shoes and then I'd go home feeling very safe, very comfortable, not worrying about whether I would be tripping on the tube stairs. I'm someone who wants to walk around, sometimes even run around, and kind of see all the stalls. I want to, meet creators. I want to try all the new food at the convention center. I want to explore. So for me to be like going back and forth, up and down in this massive, massive convention center, I need to be wearing comfortable shoes. I've also learned to adjust my cosplay over the years to make it more comfortable at conventions because wearing it and having to walk and do things in the cosplay is very different to wearing a version of the cosplay that you're doing solely for a photo shoot. And here's a pro tip for you. If you are wearing something a little larger, a little more complicated with several parts, but you still do want to bring a change of clothes, but you don't want to be lugging a bag around all day, then I would recommend you check out whether your convention center has a cloakroom, because most of the ones I've seen do. So you can just bring a luggage bag with your like change of clothes or whatever, pop it in the cloakroom, and then you can just walk around as your character and you don't have to be like carrying a bag while you're wearing like full mecha armor. And at the end of the day, you can just head back into the cloakroom, change, and that's it. That's your Comic-Con day stress-free. Now, the second thing about cosplaying at a convention is to know a little bit about photography etiquette. You might have seen people taking pictures with cosplayers. You might have already done it if you've already been to a convention, but not necessarily cosplayed before. So here are just like a couple things to expect. Number one is don't think that the amount of people who want to come and take a picture with you is directly correlated to how good your cosplay is, because I have had a whole mix of experience depending on what cosplays I am currently putting on. I just don't want any first-time cosplayers to be discouraged or like compare themselves to these cosplayers with like thousands of followers on Instagram. It should totally be about like having fun. And I think from my experience as well, like the types of cosplays that get attention vary so much depending on like the specific crowd of people there on the day, because everyone has like so many different interests. It depends on what media is currently in at the moment. So if there's like a big movie or a franchise that's getting a lot more attention that specific year. But also, if a lot of people have the same cosplays, you might get more easily lost in the crowd unless yours really stands out. And sometimes, like super obscure or super strange cosplays. I've seen like a lot of great like crossover type cosplays as well that have gotten like so much attention because of how fun it was. I think sometimes it's even more valuable when somebody recognizes your obscure cosplay. Even if it's only one person that day, it makes it like so special. So you might have seen those cosplay photographers at conventions. You might follow them on social media. They have those like super professional photos, those DSLR cameras, and they might want to approach you as a cosplayer for a photo. And if you're panicking a little bit at the prospect of someone with a very fancy camera trying to get a 5 or 10 minute photo shoot from you, my first piece of advice would be don't panic if it's your first time, and you do want to get the photos. You can tell them, just say, I don't really know how to do this. I'm not super experienced. Can you help me suggest a few poses? And if they have approached you for a photo, that usually means that they recognize your character and they're familiar with the piece of media that it's from. So they're very well placed to help you think of poses and to work with you in terms of getting the best photos. After the photo shoot, you can ask them for their contact details. And if you want to see the photos beforehand, ask them to send it to your email before putting it up on Instagram or on social media. And on the flip side as well, you can approach photographers for a photo if it looks like they're free and not busy. If they say yes, then that's cool. If they say maybe come back later because I'm actually waiting for someone right now, that's also totally fine. Just keep in touch and be completely transparent about where you'll be at what time, just to make things easier for everyone involved. Now, this should go without saying, but it's super important. If anyone ever makes you feel uncomfortable, you have every right to remove yourself from the situation, to walk away. You can ask somebody to delete pictures of you if you're already kind of like halfway through a shoot. If you're at the convention alone, it's worth texting someone you know just to keep them updated about what's going on. And you can even talk to a member of staff at the convention if you want them to keep an eye on someone specific. So here's a pro tip. A lot of cosplayers at conventions actually carry business cards with them. And that's a super smart idea, especially if you're in a costume where it might be hard to reach for your phone or tap on your phone or even see your phone. And I think signal at convention centers are pretty bad most of the time. So business cards are like a nice way to just exchange contact details very quickly. You don't have to ask them how their username is spelled. You don't have to ask them to repeat their name for like the 8th time, because I've definitely done that and I still got it wrong when I was trying to type it in my phone. So yeah, business cards, great invention, not just for Patrick Bateman, but also for your fellow cosplayers.
Nice.
Now, my next tip is to prepare a cosplay emergency kit. Whether your cosplay is homemade or pre-bought, there's always a chance of accidents happening, and while you might not want to bring your whole sewing kit and other materials along with you, I think it's worth preparing a very small emergency kit with the essentials. For me, that's usually either some glue for pieces of my outfit that might fall off, some lash glue for my lashes, which might also fall off, And top-ups of any makeup if I'm doing more of like a makeup-based cosplay. I did this when I cosplayed as Billy the Puppet from the Saw franchise. So I painted my whole face like white and did like all the puppet contours. And what I did is I drew in my red pupils on my eyelids. So it was when my eyes were closed, it looked like my eyes are open. So whenever I took photos, I would just close my eyes. But obviously it would like smear every time I blinked. And so I had to like keep redrawing those red pupils all day long. So what you need in your emergency kit would really depend on what cosplay you're wearing, but also my pro tip is to check out, based on which Comic-Con you're going, whether they have a cosplay center. Because at the one that I usually go to, which is MCM in London, they have this little booth called a cosplay hospital where they have all the essentials of what you might need to fix up your cosplays, and they have staff and attendants there as well to actually help you repair them if you need emergency repair on the day itself. So my final tip is probably the one you should do first before anything else, which is to read the rules on weapons and props in your cosplay for your convention, because they are usually very, very strict about what they allow inside the convention center for health and safety reasons, and you don't want any of your items to be confiscated by security. Because I have heard many stories about people who came in with large weapons and had them confiscated by security. Some of them got them back, some of them did not, and I do not want that to happen to you. Generally, heavier materials such as hardwood, metal, or glass are forbidden, but you can use lighter materials such as like styrofoam, or like some 3D printed materials are also fine. And I think some types of like very light wood will also be allowed. I know there are also like size limits on certain things you can bring, even if it's from made of a lighter material, but it exceeds the size limit, that might also get confiscated. So it's really best to just read the rules of whatever convention you're going to. So I hope these tips help you feel more prepared for your upcoming convention, and if you are going to one soon, let me know in the comments who you're cosplaying as. I'd love to hear from all of you. If you're interested in more cosplay videos from me, please do subscribe and join us here on this channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!